Okay, remarkably, episode 20, we're on to part 4, Fans Pulse Lap 3, coming right up. Just a reminder, as we're prone to provide, that keep your eyes on our Facebook page every Sunday evening / Monday morning. We will look to post 5 or 6 candidate discussion topics that we want you to click a few buttons on and do some voting on. So Sunday night, typically, Monday morning at the latest, have a look at our Facebook page. If you're a Facebook member, you should be alerted. You should see that on your feed. And just take a few moments, please, just to click on the link provided and cast your vote, lock in your vote for up to 4 of those discussion topics that you would like us to feature on that week's episode. All right, this is going to be, I think this is going to be the funnest, most interesting discussion topic of episode 20. I promised in part 2 that Al Priddy, g'day Al, if you're still listening, hope you're enjoying that drive, Al, from North Island all the way down to Wellington in the south. Al Priddy had sent us a few questions. We picked off a couple in part 2, and here are a couple more which are kind of related to what we're going to be talking about. So, Andy Meredith, I'm going to pose the first question to you. So Al Priddy from New Zealand asks the question: has Bartosz ZMARZLIK made the Grand Prix series boring over the past few years? Al believes that he has, and I can only conclude from that, Al, that what you mean by that is because he keeps winning, right? So I guess that's the question. Has Bartosz's dominance in the Grand Prix, Andy, made it a poor watch for supporters?
I don't think so, because, I think supporters as well can appreciate, the professionalism that he brings to the table, so, he is extremely good at what he does, but he's also very professional. He does a great job on and off the track. And, I'm just, obviously I'm always going to back, Brady, to be pushing him hard, for this year. But yeah, it's, he's a good guy, Bartosz is a good guy, and, may the best man win.
Carol, same question to you.
I can see people thinking that it's boring because somebody else is not winning, but obviously, you take the Emil out of it and Artem out of it, and 2 riders that are at the top of their game and would be challenging him certainly in the last few years, and you take them riders away. But it's also, we've mentioned it before, the other riders need to step up to his level. Now, Brady's done it this year. We know what Brady's all about. I've worked with Brady before. I know his attitude. He stepped up, and that should encourage others to do the same. And, Bartosz can only be as good as what he can be. If the others are not as good as him, then okay, if I'm world champion for 4 or 5 years, am I going to look at myself and say, well, I'm boring? No, I'm world champion, and have been, and everybody else needs to up their game. That's the way they should be looking at it. Yeah, I can see it from a supporter's point of view, but yeah, they have to. What's he meant to do? What does he do in that position? Yeah. That's just him, isn't it? It's you can't do no more, you can't do no less.
And Carol, not everyone will agree with me, but I over the years, I'm talking about outside of Speedway as well. I tend to strongly admire sports people who dominate their sports. Pick any sport, and you can pick an individual who's dominated it for years. Stephen Henry, for example, in snooker, Stewart McDonald. Just one example, Steve Davis, Bjorn Borg, whoever it might be, and I really admire that. And you've got to admire what Bartosz has achieved. If he ever wins another Grand Prix from this minute forward, you cannot deny that man is a special talent on a speedway bike, Carol.
Yeah, he's to go and win one world championship. Okay, not so much now with the Grand Prix because you've got to be consistent, but you can look into it and win a world title. You can't now, and to do it multiple times and to be there like he is, you know, he's one of the greatest. You look at him, you look back, and you know, and he's not finished. He's not finished by a long shot. You know, he's probably going to take another couple of titles. You know, he might even take this year's. You know, and then next year's, who's going to challenge him next year? You know, who knows how many he can have, and you know, he could be the greatest rider of all times, and fair play to him. He's put the effort in. He's professional. You know, he's not one of these that, you know, he doesn't go around. You don't hear much about him, in fairness. He's not one of these that's flamboyant and you know, yeah, and no disrespect to the likes of Ty. Ty's been good, but he's everywhere, isn't he? And you know he's everywhere. Whereas BARTOSZ, you don't ever hear really much about him, and that's good. But that's obviously the character that he is. Yeah, fair play to him for doing what he's doing and being the best at what he can be for as long as he is.
I like myself to drift. I was thinking there, wouldn't it be fantastic if BARTOSZ SMARZLIK announced after Speedway that he was going to become a professional ventriloquist? Just something about that would find really funny. I don't know why I thought of that. Stuart McDonald, final question from Al Priddy, all the way from down under, and Al's asking the questions. In your opinion, are too many Grand Prix allocated to Poland, to Polish track? Is it fair?
First of all, thanks for the questions, Al. Keep them coming. Do you know, I don't think it's fair, no. I think that the fact that, you know, there's other countries that miss out in Grand Prix. I mean, obviously the UK had 2 this year, but, you know, at the end of the day, I think we've spoke about it in the past. I think it's down to finances and money. And Poland seem to have that sort of pool where they can sort of demand more than anybody else. And, you know, they have, 3 Grand Prix a season in Poland, you know. I think they should spread them out a little bit more. I really do. I've got a couple more countries. You know, they had it in New Zealand, didn't they? How many years ago?
Yes.
Which was one of the best Grand Prix that I think I've ever seen. You remember the Darcy Ward, yes, the Hancock, the Saybutanov, and, you know, I definitely think that Poland do get favouritism and certainly do dictate. Literally, I'm surprised the last Grand Prix isn't in Poland, which I thought might have been obviously to favour BARTOSZ. But it's on neutral ground in VOJENS. But definitely think that the Poles, they're a little bit greedy.
Which makes it all the more interesting that VOJENS is going to be the conclusionary, the deciding Grand Prix. Al Priddy, you're a legend. Thank you very much for continuing to run the New Zealand fan club of 360 Speedway. Enjoy that 14-hour round drive, and I hope that between us we've managed to occupy more than a few miles for you, Al. Right, back on subject then. So let's now get into that Fans Pulse Lap 3. So Speedway fans everywhere around the globe are fascinated by this ding-dong battle. It's a shootout to become 2025 World Champion. Just one final SGB to come next weekend in VOJENS in Denmark. Will it be the 5 times defending World Champion Poland's BARTOSZ SMARZLIK, or SGB Series debutant Australia's BRADY Cups? Who will come out on top? Who will be crowned World Champion on the 23rd of September? Guys, we have been, you know, I think we've alluded to it already, we've been transfixed by the battle between these 2 guys, and it's been all season long, and it's a bit like the Master and the Apprentice a little bit, and I don't mean by that any disservice to Brady, who's obviously a very established rider, but it's such a difficult thing, Andy Meredith, surely for any rider, because we've rarely, if ever, seen this before, that a rider makes his debut in the Grand Prix series, and not only, you know, he aims to make the top 8 and survive into the following year, but he's actually 3 points off being crowned, or 4 points off being crowned World Champion.
Yeah, I mean, I've been lucky enough to see, you know, Brady progress, you know, and he's done every year he has that little bit more in him to be able to go that little bit further every year, you know, just in league racing. So it was only ever going to progress onto the world stage, which he's done a tremendous job, and he has a real gnarly determination about him as well. But whilst he's doing that, he remains very humble, you know. And you know, he's I I really hope that he does it, you know, because he's one of the good guys for sure. And that's not taking anything away from Bartosz at all, because I'm sure he is over there. But, you know, for me, I think Brady's a tremendous guy.
Stewart McDonald, you know, we've touched on Bartosz SMARZLIK already. You know, he is the real deal. He's super consistent. He's full of ability. Just when he needs to pull out a heat win from gate 4 on a rain-soaked track, he does it. Super confident, super capable, and he has real resilience to him. But comparatively speaking, you know, Andy's seen a lot of Brady Kurtz, and Bellevue fans will have seen a lot of Brady Kurtz. But for those of us who haven't, you know, we've learned a lot about Brady this year, and what Brady has matched Bartosz almost GP for GP, and to rhyme off as he has done 4 successive Grand Prix and become only the second rider in 30 years to have done that. That is that's beyond impressive, Stuart.
Oh, it's phenomenal. What Brady's achieved this year in the Grand Prix has just been phenomenal. You know, Cal touched on it earlier on about people stepping up, and you know, Brady Kurtz this year, to do it in his debut season, phenomenal. Honestly, you know, Andy, you've spoke to him, you deal with him every week, and you know, every time you see him on air, you see the interviews with him, he's always very humble, very nice, down to earth. But yet, when he's on that track, he's a completely different animal. You know, his riding style, he's so fast. You know, you look at how Bartosz has been for, you know, the last 5, 6, 7 years. There's nobody that's been there to touch him. I mean, let's be serious, guys. He's he's untouchable. He really has. I mean, the year that Laguta took it from him, it was on the edge, you know, and if it wasn't for that, we'd be sitting thinking, is it going to be number 7, number 8 next year? But for what Brady's achieved in his first season, absolutely deserves to win it. But I'm going to go back to Bartosz. I said that at the start of the season. I think he's just going to have that little edge. And I do think that Bartosz will just pit Brady. I'd love to see Brady doing it. I really would, you know, for what he's achieved. And, you know, he's been teetering for a few years now. You've seen him in the British League and obviously abroad, and he's done really well, but never actually had that higher level. But, you know, an absolutely amazing story for what he's achieved this season. 4 in a row, to be 3 points, 4 points away from him at this stage, phenomenal. But I do think that Bartosz is just going to have that little bit of extra experience and a bit more in the tank for him. I do. But again, I'd love to see Brady doing it, but I do think Bartosz will get him.
I wouldn't disagree with anything you've said, Stuart McDonald. Carol, just to develop and build on what Stuart's just articulated, you know, we've talked to Hans Nielsen, we've talked to other riders about, you know, mental strength and visualization techniques, etc. Does the fact that Bartosz has actually been in this position before and won through, he's shown that, he's demonstrated, he's proved to himself, he's got that mental fortitude to take it to the wire and come through. Does that give, in your opinion, Bartosz just that marginal advantage over Brady, who hasn't quite been in that same position before in the Grand Prix series?
It does, I think, but it also gives Brady the opportunity that he's got nothing to lose. What's he got to lose? You know, he comes second in the world. It's not really a massive loss, is it? You know, from going from where he has been to, like I say, coming into the Grand Prix this year, having a phenomenal season, not just in the Grand Prix, but, you know, obviously in the UK and abroad. And it's obviously rolled into his Grand Prix as well. And would you be disappointed if you was, you know, world number 2 in your first season in the Grand Prix? No, you wouldn't. But he's got nothing to lose. You know, Bartosz has, you know, multiple world champion. The pressure's on him, I think. Yes, he's been in the position before under pressure from riders, but Brady, you know, I've worked with Brady. I had him for sort of like nearly the whole of the season as a guest for us, and he's one of them. He's another likable character. He's so down to earth, and not your typical Australian. To be fair, you know, I've obviously had Jack Holder as well, and they're like chalk and cheese. He's Brady's a bit more relaxed, and I think that will help him. He's going to be nervous, 100% he'll be nervous, but I think once he gets his first ride out of the way, he'll probably calm down, and if it's a good one, that'll be obviously good for him going forward. And my heart says Brady. My head says Bartosz, just simply because of obviously the advantage of being in that position many times. But I really hope Brady wins it. I couldn't, to be fair, out of all the lads that are in GP this year, he's one that everybody would want him to win it, and that's not just because of who he is or to take it away from Bartosz. That's just because he's a likeable character, and I hope he does win it. But I really think it will go to Bartosz. I have to say
it's going to be super exciting. Andy, just to bring you back in, I'll Priddy's question earlier on about is it unfair that Poland has been allocated 3 Grand Prix, etc. Just to give a bit of balance to that, because I think it is worth having a bit of a discussion around. Brady has had three of the Grand Prix rounds this season have been on home tracks for Brady. Two at the National Speedway Stadium and one last weekend in Wrocław. Does that comparatively favour Brady and perhaps have elevated him into a position that has given him an unfair advantage over the rest of the riders, I guess, is the question.
I think when you're riding at that level every week, you can ride on pretty much any track. These guys are the best in the world, so anybody can beat anybody, I think, on their day. But Brady just, in my opinion, he's just had that little bit of something, and I've seen that in him over the last sort of few years, where he's had that little bit extra every year. And I really think, it doesn't matter what track that they're going to be on, the same outcome would have come, in all honesty.
Stewart McDonald, bring you back in. So you're just looking ahead to next weekend then. The series will conclude in, I'm quite sure, a packed out, but hopefully nice and dry, VOJENS circuit in Denmark. And VOJENS, though, has got this reputation, hasn't it, that it's really ever dry in VOJENS, right? It rains every day during the summer, I think. Is the weather... Is that particular circuit, is the infrequency of the number of times that riders will race on that circuit, does that in any way, in your opinion, play into the hands a little bit more of Brady rather than Bartosz?
I think when you look at this, the setup at the track at VOJENS, I think it will suit Brady more than Bartosz. You look at what Bartosz's tracks are like, if you like, in Poland and obviously in Sweden, but I do think that VOJENS will have an advantage for Brady. And like Carl said again, the confidence that Brady's got going into this is underdog. He's got nothing to lose, but I do think that the VOJENS track has a history of wet weather. But do you know what, Derek, as well? There's crashes, there's engine failures, there's anything that could happen. And when you've got such a small margin of 3 points, one engine failure, one tape touching, anything at all. Yeah. And we all know now that the Grand Prix, you can be in front, fall off and still get scolded. It's just, it's weird the way that they seem to do it, some of the refs, I must admit. But I do think that the weather could have a big part in it Saturday, and I do think that the track will probably suit Brady more than Bartosz. And I'm going to fling it out there as well. Is Brady going to get a little bit of help maybe from some fellow Aussies? I don't know. We've seen it in the past with I think Americans quite a few years ago. They were quite good at it, and you know what? The speed of some of the Aussies, they could probably help Brady out a little bit. We've seen, I think, was it Billy and Greg? We did it to Hans back in '97, I think, was it, at VOJENS? So who knows? It's going to be interesting. That's for sure.
It's going to be super interesting. Carol, to bring you back in again, for VOJENS, the 3 points separates the top two. There's no sprint race in VOJENS, so it's all down to the 5 qualifying heats. Perhaps a last chance qualifier, who knows? But ultimately, given the small margin between Bartosz and Brady, ultimately, for Brady to be crowned world champion, he's got to finish 2 places higher than Bartosz, and I just wonder if that's really the biggest challenge on the night. So whether they win, whether they're second, whether they're third, whether they even make the final, who knows? But can Brady finish 2 scoring places or 4 points higher than Bartosz?
Yeah, well, you only got to look at the last Grand Prix, and me personally, I watched that final and I thought Brady's fellow teammate, Mr. Dan Bewley, I thought done everything he could to try and stop Bartosz in the final from getting anywhere near Brady. And you know, we know it happens. We know they're good friends. Who would, you know, Dan's obviously still looking after his own race, but Dan's not in a, you know, he's fighting for a podium. But yeah, it did look to me that he tried to give him a little bit of help anywhere he could get his back wheel into Bartosz. He certainly tried it, but you know, that might have just been coincidence, but it looked that way. And yeah, if he wants his mate to win the world title, would he put himself in the mix there? But it's hard, isn't it? Bartosz, even if you go and win the Grand Prix, somebody's got to be damn good to put him into third place or even fourth in a final. You know, you all you got to hope is that he doesn't make the final. You know, and Brady does. Then it's a different story. But yeah, he's so hard to beat, and you know, I wouldn't put my mortgage on it. That's for certain. Yeah, but yeah, it's going to be difficult for him. But you know, yeah, hopefully he can do it.
Right, listen, let's do some predictions then. So first of all, for the bronze medal, so currently Dan Bewley, I believe, holds a 5-point advantage over Freddie Lindgren, and I think if I remember correctly, that's a flip of the third and fourth place from last season. So my opening question to get some views from you guys, Stuart, I'll ask you first: Dan Bewley or Freddie Lindgren to collect the bronze medal?
I'm going to go Freddie Lindgren.
Really? Okay. Interesting. Andy?
Dan Bewley.
Carol?
Dan Bewley.
I'm going to say Dan Bewley. I can't see Dan giving more than 5 points to Freddie. However, Stuart, it's in, you know, Freddie's more than capable and he's more than experienced, but
Freddie's getting to the end now, Derek. I just think that he's going to have one big push to try and get another podium, because he's been so close, but I just think Freddie might have a little bit in the locker for him.
Okay, and the big one, same question, but in the big one. So come the end of Heat 23, if it goes the distance at VOJENS next weekend, which rider is going to be crowned king? Is it Bartosz or is it Brady, Stuart McDonald?
Bartosz.
Andy?
Brady.
Carol?
I want Brady, but Bartosz.
I echo that. I think I would like Brady to win it, but I think Bartosz will just do the necessary, or maybe the pressure might just prove to be a little bit too much for Brady. But do you know what? You know, over a 10-round, I think it was, series. Listen, Speedway fans, let's soak up the excitement of this, because and the culmination and the tension around it, because over a 10-round or so series, this won't happen very often, and it hasn't happened very often. And we should all be delighted that it's gone absolutely down to the wire. If you are jetting out to VOJENS, then have a thoroughly enjoyable weekend later in September, and you will be able to say that you were there the night that Bartosz or Brady were crowned world champion. Guys, listen, thank you very much for regrouping and allowing us to get over the finishing line with episode 20. Apologies to Carol and Stuart and Lawrence again for the technical issues that beset us 24 hours ago. 360 Speedsters, please, as ever, my usual request to you, please remain positive, please remain active for 360 Speedway. Help us to grow the 360 followership. Please tag in any Speedway-minded friends into some of our social media posts. Encourage them to pick up our content on our YouTube channel. And one last time, please click that little thumbs up button on YouTube and on social media. It's such a powerful action, and it will help us to push out the 360 message. Stuart, Andy, Carol, thank you very much for your company tonight. Everyone out there, enjoy your speedway over what's beginning to get the closing weeks of the 2025 season. We're down to the thick end, the business end, where all the silverware will be decided very, very soon. Keep across all of the speedway news. Enjoy your speedway. Look after yourselves. Good night.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night.